Let's take a moment and define community, particularly in today's very divided and extraordinary divisive environment where community, and in many cases democracy, is misunderstood and misused. Community in its simplest form is often defined as a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. Upon further elaboration, it can include a joint ownership or liability. I'm not so sure I like the liability part, but I get the nuance behind it, which I think is best articulated by Maya Angelou, who beautifully wrote, "If it is true that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, isn't it also true that a society is as healthy as its sickest citizens and only as wealthy as its most deprived?" Taking this a bit further, democracy is defined as a system of government by the whole population or all the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives, including the practice or principles of social equality. This podcast is not a civics lesson, although I think many of us could benefit from understanding the benefits and shared responsibilities of living in an equitable, not equal, but equitable society where we all are actively participating in maintaining the health of our society as a whole, meaning health of all of its people. One individual saw the need to build this in Los Angeles, and my hope is that it spreads everywhere if it hasn't already. Welcome to Small and Gutsy, our podcast featuring nonprofits and social enterprises under $10 million. My name is Dr. Laura Witkoff, and I'm excited and proud to be your host. We hope you'll love the stories as much as we do, and perhaps you will find needed services, a job, volunteer, invest in, or donate. Small and Gutsy is not just a podcast, but a 501c3 nonprofit. Our vision is to spotlight every smaller nonprofit and social enterprise to raise their visibility. So please help me with our vision and send me any organization you'd like featured at laura@smallandgutsy.org. A former litigator with a PhD in policy from USC, my own alma mater, with a long history in philanthropic efforts and leadership, Dr. Denise McCain responded to a 2012 request from the Los Angeles City Library for a homeless youth resource guide. Dr. McCain developed and published a comprehensive citywide directory of services for homeless youth, known at that time as Our Children LA. This effort was so successful that expansion was both sought after and necessary, evolving into the nonprofit Our Community LA, or OCLA, or Denise will tell us if they call it ACLA, I'm not sure, with the tagline, Technology, Empowerment, Connections, Hope. And their mission is to leverage technology that connects youth, families, and adults experiencing homelessness or a need to easily connect to essential resources that can help them make positive changes in their lives. They are doing just that with the WIN app. What I Need is what it stands for. It's easy to remember and easy to use. OCLA's long-term commitment is to social justice by envisioning a world in which no one will be hungry, unhoused, or in need of important supportive services, enabling them to build a life out of poverty, abuse, or neglect. I am so very honored and excited to welcome my guest today, Board Chair, President, and Founder of Our Community LA, Dr. Denise McCain. Dr. McCain is a committed philanthropist and nonprofit leader, having served and serving on numerous boards and policy committees. She has a strong interest in designing practical approaches for workable interventions that improve the lives of vulnerable children, families, and adults, as well as leveraging philanthropy beyond the grant. I just love that. Supporting the engagement of foundations and nonprofits in public policy. It is clear she has a very impressive background in litigation, education, and policy work. However, she has also been a featured speaker at national and area conferences, including the past National Association for the Education of Homeless Children and Youth and 40 to None conferences. And her claim to fame with me personally is through one of my very former amazing policy graduate students, Amna Rustam, who works for Our Community LA, and that's how we got connected. So without further explanation of Our Community LA, I'm going to introduce Denise. I'd like to get started. Your passion runs deep. That is truly clear. I would imagine, and I'm only guessing, that there is perhaps a personal story there, or the, I guess in some way, the marriage of your deep interest in action and outcome and impact, along with the issue, particularly starting with our children who were impoverished and really in many ways neglected by our society. So I'd love for you to start sort of at that underpinning and then move into sort of current time. So welcome.
Well, thank you so much. And for giving Amna a shout out. I think she'll be thrilled.
She's great.
So for me, I actually never had envisioned that I'd be running a nonprofit. So I was on the policy side and the philanthropy side, and was running a policy committee training women how to become policy advocates at the Every Child Foundation. When the issue of youth homelessness really came to the fore, I was told that the group couldn't really do anything, but if I wanted to put together my own symposium, invite the other funders too. So I did. The RAND Corporation allowed me to host there, and we did that. We brought in providers that work with youth homelessness. And from there, got connected to the library, and they asked for the same symposium. City library, as you may know, libraries across the nation is the number one safe space for people who are homeless. They asked for a directory of services at the conclusion because, the city library has so many branches. And these amazing librarians with their masters in library science, and they wanted to know, could they have a directory to help them find how they could connect young people, and then of course, more than just young people, to services. And I did the one thing that I never did when I was a prosecutor. You never, ever say something that you don't really know just because you think it's true. And I was so sure that there was going to be a directory out there. I'm like, no problem. I'll get you one. And there was not one. I talked to nonprofits. I talked to folks at the city and county levels. And the response at that time was kind of, no, everyone was saying not their mission. Right. And they would change too quickly.
Meaning that the services would change too quickly, so you'd have to keep redoing it.
Have to keep redoing it. And nobody felt like, and rightfully, nonprofits are run on a shoestring. You and I know this.
Right.
And if it isn't part of your core mission, I was teaching at USC as an adjunct at the time at policy school. And I told my students, I just said, this is a classic example of a systems barrier. If young people can't find the help that they need, they will be homeless longer. And all the data shows, no matter what your age, if you're on the streets for 2 weeks or more, the trauma to the brain is significant. And it starts to make very real changes. So having an opportunity to find something much more quickly, you typically know what you need, so you need a way to find it. So we did a directory. The city library was great. They put it in every one of the libraries. December of 2012, I did it with an intern, just the two of us. And it was really what we thought, like, oh, you need shelter, you need this. But it wasn't. Within a few months, I was getting calls from all kinds of folks, the public defender's office, LAUSD. Like, how did they know about this? And everybody was saying, we want one. And then I was speaking at one of them. They asked me to come and talk about it. And I was asked, why didn't we do a countywide? The woman who said it actually was running the homeless liaison entire group for LA County Office of Education. And they oversee every school district in the county. And they have reporting responsibilities for the Department of Education under the McKinney-Vento Act. I looked at this woman who has become a very good friend and who has been on our board now for some years. We ended up with a really good conversation. She goes, let's see what we can do together with McKinney-Vento Act, some funding to help support what you do. And I started trying to see how it was really being used. The youth weren't going into a library and saying, may I have a directory of services for homeless youth, please? It wasn't a phrase rolling off their tongue. And that made sense when I thought about it, because I'd raised 3 children. I'd been working at, on teaching over at USC with young adults. And it's a time in life developmentally when you want to be like everybody else. The last thing you want to do is put a little brand on yourself that says I'm homeless. So I ended up talking with a professor, Eric Rice, over at the School of Social Work at USC.
Sure. I know him very well.
And Eric and I had not met before that. And I had heard he was doing work around youth homelessness. And I said, what would you think an LAPD officer, as you can see, it always takes a village, had suggested to me that we have an app. And I didn't really know a lot about apps. And so now this is 2013. And Eric says, I said, what would you think of an app? And his first comment was, it's about time. All the youth have phones. Someone needs to do this. And so gaining a lot of insights and support from his research and other folks, we put together a team of volunteers. And we built the prototype. It was launched in 2015. It was based on focus groups. I went and sat in drop-in centers with young people around the county, now saying, well, what would you put in an app? What are the services that need to be there? The number one thing that came out in every group was nobody said shelter. And I said, well, I started asking why. The response was everybody understood. They said, we already know there aren't beds for us. We know we have to get out of this. We'd like a place to live, but we also really want food, education support, jobs, mental health support. The list went on. And it was not that they didn't want housing. They wanted it desperately, but they felt like people would assume they would want housing because that would be correct and would not get the array of services that they wanted to be able to find. By 2018, it was expanded to serve families and adults, and this was coming from feedback from a lot of folks using it, including you. If you are on the street with your friend and your friend is 25, they can't go to the shelter with you. And there's just so many services that were needed. So by 2020, during COVID, we were asked to please extend it to seniors because low-income housing providers largely do serve seniors, and they were so isolated. And in 2021, we were able to receive some funding from some small family foundations, as well as discretionary funds from two of our board of supervisors to translate the entire thing into Spanish. So we serve all ages. We changed the name in 2020 to reflect that we were not only serving youth, so we are our community LA. The word "our" was very important to my board and I when we named the organization, because homelessness and resource insecurity is not us versus them. It's our community. And I loved your Maya Angelou quote at the beginning, because it really reflects our vision as well. It is we, and how are we doing and what. So it's our community.
Mm-hmm. As I was reading your website and learning about the app and sort of how it had expanded and a little bit of the history, I had to really think about, I already knew that it was community driven. I knew that it was reflective, in my opinion, of what a good democracy is. And so in thinking about it, it came to me that there's an expression about taking care of one another, because we are only one step away from being in anybody else's shoes. If we think about it from that point of view, we then have a collective effort and the importance of taking care of each other. And that's what I think you've conveyed both in your approach to this, your guidance around who you connect with, the network of people you've brought together, and most importantly, who you've asked about what they need, because those are the people who need it at this time. And so I really appreciate that. And I'm guessing you went through sort of a similar thing when you added services for elderly or for adults, where you went to those sources to say, what do you need? Or people perhaps who serve the elderly, what are the things that are most important to them? So I think that model is worth putting a flashlight on and talking about how significant that is. You know, businesses have done this for years with focus groups. When I worked in public health in the HIV world, we would do community advisory boards and ask them, what do you need in your community for services? But it isn't always a natural thing that people go to. They want to create something and have people come and like it. And you did the opposite, which I just want to highlight, because it isn't always usual. It should be, but it isn't.
Yeah, I think for older adults, that's something I'm in the process of learning now. For some seniors, it's a little more than just where do I find food? And so that's what we've been learning about. Well, what are the other things we need to put in here, separate from the categories that we have, that would bolster? So I recently added some really interesting new things that I hadn't known about to the app. I Did Something Good Foundation and it's actually a nonprofit, even though the name of the foundation. They have something called Nostalgic Radio. It's streaming of the 40s to the 70s and old shows, old music. And so we're really starting to look at what can we do with that? And then we'll go back. Next year, we'll be thinking, well, are there things we can further connections for other demographics as well?
I love this whole concept for so many reasons, but one for you and your staff and the stakeholders within this is it's a continuous learning that you're doing. It is continuous learning, which I think is both beneficial to you all, but beneficial for the recipients. Because we know, so from a research perspective, we know music with elders is hugely significant in brain health and in continuing to sort of maintain whatever health remains. And so to think about that as a way for elder adults to be engaged is just beautiful. And when I was thinking of food, I was thinking youth and food is, nourishment. It also could be a little bit of community. For older adults, it's, I think, community first, sustenance second. I mean, I know that, but it's like eating with someone, like having a presence of someone in the room with you or in the space with you. So I think it's just brilliant because you're really meeting the population wherever they are. And it's truly a delivering of social service, putting the client population first and foremost. And I just think there's something so significant about that, and so caring about that, and so respectful and full of dignity. And so what you've created is a dignified way for people to access services. And so it feels the opposite of traditional service delivery is you need this, and so therefore it's I think I need this, or I need help accessing, or for a youth I might talk to someone else and we'll look at it together, or whatever. There's a community piece potentially. And so you've done just the opposite, and I love that. I think it's remarkable, frankly. So
that's something that's been very important from the beginning. The dignity. If you listen to people, they do know typically what they need. And there are, obviously, there are some exceptions. He doesn't live here, but I have a family member that has schizophrenia. And so, and as we know, there are a certain percentage of people on the street in LA County who suffer from very dramatic and difficult mental illnesses. And from our family experience, I would say, I know that this person in my family would not be capable of using an app to look for things. That said, so many people, I should never say most, have a stereotype of those who are homeless, which is they are all in that circumstance. And that is so far from the truth.
Not true.
Not true. And then there's also those that are the pipeline. Those that are one paycheck away, one step away. They're choosing between how do I buy food versus my utility bill or my rent? And they need support.
Right.
But the one thing we really wanted to do to support them was to give them their dignity. It's very difficult to struggle. And so this app is not only free, but you never sign in. It totally respects your privacy because we don't know who you are. And it's by design. I will say funders, so many of them hate it, and we've been turned down.
Because they like to track, I know.
And I've been told, why not? And by the way, apps can track you. Why aren't you? And it's like, because it goes against our promise. We are the only user-driven support tool in the county. Everybody else, and that's not bad. I'm saying that other groups, I mean, if they're getting funding from a governmental agency, the governmental agency is looking for accountability. And right now, that accountability, what people want to gather, it used to be a lot of folks thought there wasn't enough accountability. And now I'd say the pendulum's gone the other way. And it's like they want to have every single thing. And we have on our posters and handouts, it says begin with when. And the reason is you want to start there, and we'll connect you, and you can look for what you need. When you feel comfortable, you can call them through the app, you can email them through the app. You can get directions through the app, or you can just sit on and think about it. Psychology tells us if we make a choice, we feel differently about something than if someone comes and finds us, right? That's a different sensation about how you feel about yourself. And so when we did this, the whole goal one of the goals, was that this app also be a tool of empowerment. And that meant by necessity and by of dignity and of privacy. And we know when they go in to wherever they've chosen to go, they're going to have to provide whatever information that that service needs to collect. Some food banks collect none, some collect a lot. Shelters have to collect. That's okay. We want them to do their job. We just want to shorten that time period. And we want to have people know this is for them to find help. No other reason. It's only for them. So that dignity and privacy component is very integral to who we are.
In so many ways, you've created something that is a tool that helps sort of not just the participant or the individual who needs the service, but it actually helps those providing the services as well. Because it's, if I can't provide the service because we don't have beds at our facility, you look on this, you help somebody find it and they'll go somewhere else. Or, the food bank is open on this day and not this day. Or there's, other things. And so it really becomes a networked opportunity for both your stakeholders as well as the people utilizing the app. And I think I can't imagine that people wouldn't see this as just an amazing tool to be able to use. It's like a Yellow Pages in so many ways in one place. And but it's narrowing it in terms of the needs that people are asking for. So you've really created something that I can't imagine will ever go away, because now it lives, and it's a living technological entity. It's not stagnant at all, but it's incredible, and it's really being networked and getting the information both in and then delivering it out, which is what it sounds like you do regularly. So what do you see for the future? When you think about the future, I know your overarching vision, but what do you see as the next few steps? You've talked about the elderly and securing that piece. What else is there in the pipeline that you can share?
We launched a new feature last fall. It's an interactive HUD. It's interactive technology, which we've never had before. It enables people to take a survey or questionnaire to see if they qualify for HUD housing. And it's based on their answers, so it kind of adjusts. And then it gives them advice. Here's where you would go to apply. Here's how you approach the assessor. Here's what you need to bring with you. Here's other resources based on the category you've qualified for. For example, if you qualify for HUD category 4, which because of you're fleeing domestic violence, you're going to need to know about public interest law firms that can help you with legal and maybe a domestic violence shelter and children's items. So what we're seeing, one of the things that we're seeing is that we would like to be able, now that we have this technology, think about how else we can use it. We're also looking right now, we're only outreaching on 4 community college campus, and we're going to be expanding to add 4 more. So we'll be doing that. We're also looking at trying to, kind of the vision is to have more and more of our staff be of the population that we're serving. So we do have a number of staff that have had lived experiences of resource insecurity or homelessness. My vision is we can continue to expand that. Of course, my vision is also that we can pay them so they can be full-time, because it's very difficult as part-time, and we have passionate, amazing people. We have been very blessed, and I believe we will continue to have that, but I'd like to be able to do more for them. But ultimately, I would like to see our community LA be by and of the very people that is trying to lift.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. I also wonder, my head goes into sustainability again. I wonder if you could think about, it means a little bit of program development on the program development side, but sort of workforce development, because when you hire someone of community with lived experience, you're also creating an avenue for them to support themselves. And so you're teaching them skills, and they're gaining skills in terms of stakeholder interaction or research, depending upon what avenue that they're interested in and how you can help support that. So I wonder if you can get some grants that are related to workforce development, because that's in essence what you're doing, and almost verging on, this could be a part of it, could be a social enterprise where you're really So it's still a nonprofit, and within a nonprofit, if it's workforce development, there are grants within the Department of Labor and sort of local to LA too that would really be interested in that. And that you can then measure very easily because someone is signing up to work within that structure. And so they have a certain amount of training, and then they sign on, and then eventually they may get a job somewhere else in technology or in like things, and so then you continue to grow that area. So it's just a thought. But as I think about your sustainability, and when you think about it, you only really started in 2012, but you really launched the app piece much later, and really have learned so it hasn't been around for that long, in that it is expanded and become such in my opinion, a vital part of the community. And what I'm hearing from you is it still needs the network of being known. So you're good at what you do. You're delivering an outstanding service. You just need more people to learn about it so that they can access it and use it. And I love that you're staying true to your belief that you don't have to track individual people because it makes them feel uncomfortable and they don't feel secure, especially in sort of the divisive stuff that's going on in our kind of general country. And therefore, holding true to that sort of honors your commitment to the individuals who both you serve but are part of the development of your product. And I think that's beautiful and great and amazing. And, I just, I'm in awe of what you're doing, and whatever little stuff we can do at Small and Gutsy to help you expand or become known, it would be my privilege, because this is something that, and this begs one more question before we get to our Small and Gutsy's, our quick and gutsy questions, is do you know if there are other cities that are doing this, or other counties that are doing this in California or elsewhere? Have you been asked to maybe help create this? Not that you can divide yourself into 50 pieces, because you're probably already doing that, but I just think this is such an amazing service that I can't imagine another city or county would not want this.
Interesting question. We had been approached by a couple of different places before COVID, and then it all went away. But and actually, the city of Trenton launched a WIN app, but it was January of 2020.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We were actually in conversations with a city here in LA, city here in California,
wow.
who is very interested, and we're very excited and hopeful that this is going to come to fruition with them. And we'd love to see this. And we actually set it up so that we can, one of the things we did during COVID is a wonderful law firm that just does technology in the Bay Area did a pro bono with us, creating a software licensing agreement, so that we really can help others have the WIN app in their community.
And I love the name. And so you've branded that name, and you said it so beautifully. Nobody wants an app on their phone that says homeless services, or there's nobody. And so to have something that is innocuous in a way, but you know what it means, and it really is about what I need.
Well, the interesting thing is when you go to the app stores, you need to put in what I need. And the reason is we'd originally gone in as the WIN app. But if you put in WIN app, like all these gambling games come up first. They all figured out some algorithms. They didn't have WIN in their name, and they'd be first. And went, well, it stands for what I need. So we're going to go in as WIN what I need. And then
Perfect. That's great. I love that. Yeah, it didn't occur to me because I was just focused on how the creation of the name was. And of course, it's what I need. But I hadn't even connected that, of course. But yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Well, because you're completely altruistic and thinking what I need makes sense. And here's, the acronym for it. So, of course, it really makes sense. So toward the end of our podcast, we always have a round of quick and gutsies. So if you're ready for our quick and gutsy questions, they're fun. Usually we get little pearls of wisdom, and if you don't have an answer, you go, I'll pass on that one. No harm done. What is at the top of your wish list for our community LA / the WIN What I Need app? But the answer can't be money or funding. So what is at the top of your wish list?
That people knew about it. that everybody knew, awareness that everybody actually knew about it.
Again, I sort of come up at because I'm a consultant by nature, and so I come up with these ideas. I wish there were years ago. There was we had a case study when I was teaching, or maybe it was when I was in my doctoral program in social work, and it was on the Red Cross. And when it's not a crisis, the Red Cross kind of their coffers become a bit empty. And so I think it was the Bitly decided to work with the Red Cross. So every time you opened your laptop or whatever, and there was something, there'd be a banner that would say, "Don't forget the Red Cross," or something about, and it would be, and you could create your own Bitly as a fun thing, as an activity, and then it would come up as a reminder. So I just wonder if there's some way there can be an entity out there that is, well known, that would be willing to promote you. And so to give that some thought, it would be a great thing to be able to do that as a campaign of some kind. Because I could see yours as, without Our Community LA, that's the umbrella, but for particularly for Win What I Need app as a campaign, I would love to see that develop something. You and the stakeholders have done this amazing legwork, continue to do it, to create the infrastructure so that the services can be known. Now it just needs to really have some kind of campaign out there. And maybe offline you and I will brainstorm. But I love the idea so much. If you were to think of a song that describes Our Community LA, and you could do two songs if there are two songs, and the Win What I Need app, or one song that really describes your organization, what would it be?
I'm at a loss for a song that describes the organization. When I think about who we are serving, show my age here, and I would say Allentown by Billy Joel.
Oh, I love
Because
that.
even
Yeah.
though it was about, a town that's lost its jobs, people were struggling and felt that the economic opportunities had passed them by. And I feel that that captures in many ways the people we're trying to lift up. I mean, these are
Yeah.
good people that have, for a variety of circumstances, largely beyond their control, are in these
Yes,
circumstances,
almost
and we're
always.
trying to help connect them to resources to help them get those positive changes they want to see in their lives. So, and I always felt like that song really captured kind of this sense of desolation that people were feeling.
Desolation in a previous environment that had been a full community.
Yes.
What makes Our Community LA gutsy? Because you're definitely gutsy. What makes you gutsy?
We're doing something that from the beginning people told us, well, we really couldn't do. I mean, to be honest, we were like,
Yeah.
you'll never keep up with it. It changes too fast. The folks that didn't know about the Lifeline program said, oh, people don't ever have phones, which of course they all do.
Have phones. They have phones before they have anything else. It's really true.
Absolutely. And then you have you can only do this if you collect data. You are crazy not to gather all this data, because it's one person told me, oh, probably 5-7 years ago, the phrase was too altruistic. I mean, we are still very small, so there is some truth to that. Dollars don't always flow for our vision,
Yeah.
but enough dollars have flown that it's not me and intern. We've got, 4 part-time staff and some young folks that are interning with us, and some amazing other folks that are all working with us. But yeah, we are gutsy because we are doing something nobody else thought should be done. And frankly, a lot of people didn't think it was important.
What is something that outsiders, or maybe even a few insiders, don't know about our Community LA? Or the app, either one.
I think a lot of people don't really internalize the impact that the app can have on an individual's lives. And we rarely get to hear those stories ourselves because you don't sign in. But a few have been shared with me. And it's really quite heartwarming in a way, not in a patronizing way, but in a very uplifting sort of way. Because what we do, we've instituted a feature in the app where it has a little pop-up and it says, "When helped me today?" And you can click a thumbs up or a thumbs down. You can click the little X and not respond. There's also an option that you can send feedback, which very few people do. But we have gotten some really amazing comments from that, from people saying about how important it was to one person, to their partner and their dog. And they'd been in there sleeping in a car and what it helped them to. And, I think a lot of people do not, because we don't have, stories all over our website, pictures of our users saying, this is this person. They forget that there's real people using it.
If you could get one celebrity or influencer to endorse or talk about our community, LA, or the Win app, who might that be? Who would be a really good mouthpiece for you?
I guess I just recently was reading about America Ferrera because she had a 40th birthday and it popped up on my, whatever newsfeed there was. And she was promoting voting, which is something we actually also do during voting. We send all that out in alerts, letting people know, just have an address, doesn't mean you can't vote. Here's how. So that caught my attention, the voting, and I read about it. But it also talked quite a bit about her, which I didn't know, that she was born and raised in LA, and that she's been very committed to social activism. So I would say that would be amazing. Someone based or with ties in LA County who has genuine passion for folks that are in need. So I think someone like her would be amazing. I could go the other way and say an athlete like Magic Johnson, because he has a foundation, then by his foundation has demonstrated true commitment to the Los Angeles community. And we would love to have, and we do, it would benefit us greatly to have a spokesperson or two with that kind of commitment to our community here.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. And then I think additionally to that, which is separate and not another, we're through with the quick and gutsy questions, but just kind of reminded me, I also think it would really be a benefit if somebody like Karen Bass put it on their website, if you're visiting, you know what I mean? Because it is for LA County and she is the mayor. And so it would be, and that's a separate influencer because she's got a certain constituency and people are going to follow her. And then I think I love the folks you named, because they're also then for different demographics, frankly, to a certain extent. And then there may be a youth one that would be really interesting to do a little focus group with some of the youth and say, if you could get an influencer or a celebrity that you could really be a good person, who would it be? And then you have all the youth, like, hashtag the person and talk about the Win app. I don't know, but I just think, again, it's about awareness. And that's sort of was my goal in creating this platform. And it's clearly something that I hope to help you capitalize on as this grows and becomes a permanent fixture, which is my hope, a permanent fixture with flexibility because it changes so frequently. But you're willing to put the work in, and we should celebrate you for that. You're doing all the heavy lifting. We as a society are all benefiting from your heavy lifting, because once you raise up all of society, everybody benefits.
One thing you asked was there anything I didn't say that I think that would like to make sure I said? And that is, while there's been a lack of broad support for the organization, because we are a non-traditional nonprofit, because we are straddling both technology and traditional nonprofit work, we have some really wonderful foundations that have believed in us. To circle back on the whole youth front, so with HUD, there was a homeless youth demonstration project. LA County got one of those grants. And one of the recommendations that came out of that was the young adults that were involved said that they weren't getting any say in what was being funded for them, and they didn't think the right things were being funded. So a group of funders in LA County got together and created a funding pool. They hired a consultant. They engaged some of these youth, trained them in how to do it, and they put out an RFP, and someone told me about it. And that's what's funding all of our college outreach. So young adults that are now decision makers looked at a group of funding, and it was actually under the housing. And I just applied there thinking, well, we connect people to housing and the other service upkeep house. And they liked it. And so we're on the second year of funding for it with that group. So, which is incredible. It's incredible. So we are so grateful.
So how do people reach you? How do people get on the app? How do people reach you, make a donation, anything, or connect with you, have some ideas for you?
Love that question. So reach me, D. McCain at oclawin.org. The WIN app is there. You look at the, how to find help. You can go to it. There's a contact form there. There's obviously a donation page there. So all of those work beautifully. To reach us for the app itself on the website, we've got a page so that you can see where to go on the website, or you can just link you directly to the app stores. You can also go into either of the app stores, Google Play or Apple App Store, and just put in the search bar, WIN what I need. And then we also have community flyers and postcards that if people happen to see, they have the QR codes on there, which can take you right to the store you need to go to.
That was the other question I had for you, if you had done a QR code, which I think is wonderful. I also think to myself that every helper, every provider, whether social worker, marriage family counselor, working with any population, should have this on their phone, because they can help a client take a look at it and say, hey, you can download this, or you can even use the one on my phone if you need to while you're working with me, whatever would be appropriate. Because I do think in the helping profession, we have so many folks. I think I taught in the social work school and occasionally still do, and teach in the policy school like you had. And I feel like every single one of my social work students should have this on their phone if they're moving into a direct service position or even in an admin position, because you never know who's going to need the service. And it's just such a great thing to have available, because again, we're all only one step away from within a community where we may need to have support that we hadn't anticipated previously, because we never know what's around the corner.
I would agree. I would love to see it on everybody's phone. I just don't feel I don't think we should let any opportunity go by that people aren't aware that they can find help.
Yeah, I agree. I think the worst thing is when you feel alone in your pain, whatever that pain is, and in your, or isolated because something occurred. And you said it so beautifully before. The folks who need the service are really good, wonderful folks, and they deserve to have an opportunity to have a moment in time where they can get the support they need so they can lift themselves into a better situation, a healthier situation for themselves. And I love that. So I just want to take a moment and thank you for spending so much time with me and teaching me about your philosophy, your approach, and this amazing organization that you founded and are continuing to build out to meet the needs of the constituencies in LA County.
I want to thank you for having me on the podcast. I love what you're doing to dedicate yourself to helping the community. If folks find nonprofits like ours, is incredible. I don't know of anyone that's really doing that. So thank you.
Thank you. Please go to smallandgutsy.org to check out all of our episodes. And if you are so inclined, please purchase some Small and Gutsy merchandise, consider sponsoring an episode, or making a donation. Both are tax deductible to help keep us going and spotlighting these great organizations. The opinions and viewpoints expressed by our guests are independent and do not reflect the position or views of Small and Gutsy. Of course, we can't take responsibility outside of our own vetting of the organizations we interview, so before you sign on to support or work for them, we encourage you to do your own due diligence and research them as well. I want to thank my partners in this endeavor, the Intrinsic Group, my incredible board of directors, Tracy Brown, John Gatto, Lucy Mello, Serena Rajabian, and Melissa Greitz, who believed in me in this project enough so to sign on to support this effort, and all the folks, friends, and family who have guided and inspired me. And thank you for listening. Together, we are spreading social impact, and you can help us. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. from small and gutsy to big with impact. I'm Laura Witkoff, and thanks for listening.